Okay, can you explain why 北极 is 悲歌传说? Good guess. But I thought 飞 has nothing to do with 飞, flying, right? 飞 is something good. Anyone? You want me to narrow down? I'm going to guess it's on the second page of your map test. Okay, will that help? You know, your map test has the front page and the back page. So this country is in the back page. Yunnan. Good guess. Still not very close. Because if I give you the answer, you will know, oh yeah, this one should be. 千里达. Okay, good. So, but I'm not sure. Is Taiwan's pigeon so good? They can fly 1,000 miles. Our pigeon can fly a lot, right? From Taipei, you know, to the south, from the south back to Taipei. People can do it. Okay. Enough of the pigeon. Sun Minglun, Zhou Yijie. Okay, today we're going to deal with democracy. So I want you to tell me, first of all, in your view, what constitutes a democracy?
You have the people and you have the regular election.
Okay, you have regular election. Okay, that's one very important part of democracy. But I'll give you a hint. China also has election. Well, it's how about other countries like the country we teach, like in Africa? They also have elections. So you have people, you have election. So election is very important. A democracy has to have election, but having election does not necessarily make a democracy. Okay, so that's very important part, election. So we have the election. And what else? Li Yuxun. Li Liyuan. Yeah. What else in a democracy? Can you think of any? Democracy means in Taiwan you no longer have to keep your hair short as a student. So like your professor, when I was in high school, I have to have we call the crew cut, right? Real short one. And I remember, you know, I didn't go to the barber shop. What did the military officer, or we call disciplinarians, 军官, what did he do? He cut a hole here. But now it's kind of popular, right? Having two holes in the middle. So, in your view, what is a democracy? Election. What else? You can go strike. Okay, so go strike is almost like freedom of expression, right? You have Freedom of not just expression, but also of what? Freedom of expression and assembly, because you have to organize. In China, the government will be very afraid of few people assembling. They don't even try to go on strike or protest. They just like gathering. That's not good. Okay, freedom of assembly. 吴平凯. Yeah. More? What is a democracy? More than two parties. Okay, multi-party. So now, let me ask you, from 1955 until maybe this year, earlier, or at least in the 1990s, Japan, our neighboring country, has only one party in power called the Liberal Democratic Party. So Japan was not a democracy until they have a, Democratic Party taking over last year. Because Japan, so is it the number of political parties in Japan or the number of parties taking turn in power? Because Japan, for a long time, the opposition party never came to power. It's just Liberal Democratic Party, like Taiwan KMT. Okay, but Taiwan is not a democracy. Japan was considered a democracy, and now if people say, how about China? China said, hey, in addition to the Communist Party, what else? China also has a lot of so-called democratic parties, including KMT. There is a KMT in China, okay? So China has more than just Communist Party, but only one party in power. So my question is, was Japan not democratic at that time, from 1955 until 2009? Or even, there was a short period, 1 year of socialist rule, coalition. But no, Japan is a democracy. But people just saying, is Japan really a democracy? How come the opposition party never came to power? Because at least they had that opportunity. Okay, so that's very important. You have free competition. Okay, but people choose. Now, there is another country then, next one, also has one party in power, but you also have, you also have, okay, so here, this is the country, Zhang Peiqi, one party in power. Also have some opposition party competing in election, but they never won in the election. They have been in power, this party, since 1954. Always in power. Called PAP, Singapore, People's Action Party. So, is Singapore a democracy? You think so? But most people say, oh, Singapore, one-party state. But Japan, nobody called it one-party state. And Singapore, by the way, the People's Action Party usually won 65% of the votes. 65%. Not very impressive, right? You think of one party as like, 80%, 90% of support. No, only 65. But they have been in power for more than 50 years now. So here we have multi-party system in Singapore. Singapore has a parliamentary system, they have election for the parliament seats. And usually, if the governing ruling party, if they lost more than 2 seats, they said, what a defeat. Or they have more than 80 seats, right? So if they lost like 3, like humiliation. Usually sometimes they won all. Most of the time, opposition will win 1. And then they would say, well, we actually need to have opposition in the parliament so that the debate can be livelier. So why don't we allow non-voting opposition member to be included, like giving a favor, saying, you couldn't win the regular election, but I'd like you to hear what you want to say in the parliament, so I give you a few non-voting seats. But they also accept it. I mean, if I'm opposition, I should not accept, right? But that's Singapore. So we have multi-party, but competition has to be free and fair. Okay. China, obviously, no. Taiwan, before 1990, not fair, or being limited. Japan, always fair. Okay. Japan does have some kind of, we call, pork barrel politics. Means they help the voters. They give some favor to their local constituents. So that will help. But Singapore sometimes threaten. Like in Taiwan, what would be very important, and I don't think it is important anymore in Taiwan. In Hsinchu, is it 里民活动中心 very important? No? Like activity center, local community center, 社区活动中心. Okay, what PAP used to do, People's Action Party in Singapore, they would say, if you voted for the opposition, there won't be any community center support for you. No. Who cares? Right? But it's a center of local community. So multi-party system, you need to have multi-party. But that multi-party is not just rubber stamp or being funded by the ruling party or being controlled. Has to be, present opportunity at least to win the election. People will think, hey, the opposition never wins, that's fine. If, the game continue, so-called the democratic game continue, you will win the election one day. So that's important. Qiu Guanqun. Yeah. Okay. What else in a democracy? So I'll give you an essay like what is a democracy? What will you write? What constitutes democracy? Or you can use the other way, say what do not constitute a democracy. Like, do not have that Song of the Valley anymore. Do you know Song of the Valley? 古歌 Song of the Valley. 谷歌 Have you heard of 谷歌? Google. Okay. That's how they call it in China. I'm sorry. I think that's the way they call it, right? Song of the Valley. So pure, so nice. But, so what is a democracy? You can have Google, you have democracy, right? Okay, so this is freedom of not just expression, but of what? Freedom of, we call, speech and freedom of press. Google is one kind of, I think, media as well, right? Provide you information. So freedom of, information. That's also very important in a democracy. You don't control the access to information. But China said, we don't need Google. We have, the 100 degree. Do you know 100 degree? Baidu. Okay, so they have, you said, well, but what about Facebook? They said, wow, we have 人人网. How many of people have been to 人人网? No? My suggestion for you is you are very, especially ladies here, you're very competitive in China because China do not have enough women. Okay, so you need to make friends on 人人网. Okay, that will help you, broaden your scope. So China does have alternative. They do have Baidu. They do have 人人网, but it's not the same, right? Why? Why it is not the same? 叶子瑜. Yeah, why it is not the same? Baidu and Google. What's the difference between Baidu and Google? Okay. You have never been on Baidu before. Why not? Because it's in simplified Chinese. It's so ugly, right? How many of you have been to Baidu? Okay, now, what's the difference between Baidu and Google? Okay. In Baidu, you will never find something like Tiananmen massacre. Okay, in Baidu, most of the information have been, we call, censored. Censored means we just check it to see whether it's appropriate for our people. If it's not appropriate, China will delete them. Google said, okay, I want to go into China, but China want me to get rid of sensitive material. Google also did that. Okay, Google also did that, but more and more so, China said, that's not enough. We don't like this, we don't like that. So Google finally decided to leave. Okay, my experience in China, when I was an exchange professor in Renmin University, Beijing, I lived in I love that building's name, 专家楼, specialist building, okay, 专家楼. So I can have access to internet. Oh, you cannot read anything with the website TW at the end, okay? You cannot access Taiwan's newspaper like UDN News. UDN News, maybe in the evening after they check everything is fine, they allow you to access. But I do have access to nccu.com, nccu edutw, okay? My university, so I can read my email, that's it. Almost like they specially tailor-made for me, saying, oh, here we have a professor from NCCU. Let him have access to his own mail. And, when he read his mail, we can also read. So, control. Okay, so that's not a democracy. So we have all kinds of this. And what else? 叶家豪, 徐角鹏, yeah. What else? What's the most recent news about Ricky Martin? He's a gay. Okay, now, usually a gay cannot come out of the closet in a non-democracy, isn't it? I mean, now, how many of mainland China entertainers will openly say, I am a gay? Even if they want to, the government said, that's not good. So what does that tell you in a democracy? Or alternative lifestyle or alternative view can be accepted, right? Alternative lifestyle and alternative view can be accepted. Okay? So in Taiwan, for example, some people said we want to be part of China. Someone said we want to be independent. Someone said we don't know what we want. That's fine. Okay, we just want status quo. Other people say, hey, we want to be the 51st state of the U.S. Some people say we want to be the 5th island of Japan, but that's still fine. Okay, you can have alternative view. By the way, Taiwan cannot be the 51st state of the U.S. because Taiwan is behind 2 other states. We are the 53rd. Okay, if you go to United States, you will find 2 other states ahead of Taiwan in application of the membership. Okay, one is Fuzhou, one is Wenzhou. Okay, you go to New York, you will find all the grocery stores operated by people from Wenzhou. Okay, you go to the restaurant, especially they call China buffet. That's always managed by Fuzhou immigrants. You know, most of them illegal, but you know, just so many Fuzhou and Wenzhou people in the United States. If you took the subway, you know, from Chinatown to New York, you hear people speaking. You know it's Chinese, but you cannot understand a word. That's Wenzhou dialect or Fuzhou dialect. Very difficult. Okay, those two. But whether you want to be American, Japanese, Chinese, or just Taiwanese, or you want to be a Pacific Islander, fine. Alternative view, okay? So you have alternative view, alternative lifestyle. Like America is a democracy because one group of people can always wear black. Song Ziqi. Do you know this group of people in America? They always wear black. They don't use modern technology. They still use, you know, horses. They don't want electricity. How can they live without Google? How can they live without the internet access? Do you know this group of people? Have you heard of them? Amish people in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, you have those people. They even refuse to send their kids to American high school. Why? American high school is a place for crime, right? American, you know, don't go to American high school. Basically, if you know, study here, I have seen so many immigrants' kids. They go to the U.S. From junior high, and then they just concentrate on their study. 3 years later, they're better than the local students. Because most of American high school girls are busy with making makeup, with dates, with, you know, prom, 毕业舞会. That's the most important thing, you know, in their life. Okay, so Amish people said that's pollution, spiritual pollution. Okay, so they don't want it, but that's fine. Alternative lifestyle. The government said, wait a second, every parent is supposed to send their kids to school. Why not the Amish people? The Supreme Court said Amish people know how to educate their kids. So please don't use that as a reason not to, to force them to send their kids to school. So alternative lifestyle. Qiu Wancheng. What else? Democracy. Human rights. Okay. Can you be more specific? Like human rights. We know human rights. China said they have human rights, right? North Korea said, yeah, we love human rights. Women's rights. Okay. So that case, a lot of Middle Eastern countries will have problem, right? So we call respect of basic human rights, including women's rights, including minorities' rights. Okay, that's very important. Some of the minorities want to be respected of their, again, alternative lifestyle or different view, minorities. Yangcheng县 Zhang Chunsheng. Yeah. Anything else you want to add? Okay, let me ask you one. Can we have a democracy with a military ruler? No. So we have one country in Africa called Mali. M-A-L-I. Mali. Okay, the current president, a military background, general. So, but Mali is considered a very democratic country because we're going to show you, some of the things I want you to look at. Where is my? Think of reason why can be a democracy. Mr. Zhang, military rulers can be a democracy. Oh, I'm using Google. God. So why? Very slow. Wow. Of course, military general are not supposed to be a ruler. But if they step down, if they retire from military, and they run for election and they won, then there is no way we can deny. So you can have your military background. Can you give me one democracy like United States? Do they have military general who became president? You cannot name one. I'll name one for you. Eisenhower. Do we have Eisenhower something here in Taiwan? We only have Roosevelt Road. Do we have Eisenhower something? 没有 Eisenhower scholarship, I think I heard. Eisenhower, okay, back in the 50s, who used to be a military hero. Oh, what about the first president of the United States? Who is the first president of the United States? George Washington. Hey, George Washington was a military hero, right? Of course, military hero. People say, oh, you're a military hero. You must be a good president. Look at Eisenhower and George Washington. Both are pretty good. But we also have a very lousy president, the one right after Civil War. Okay. How many of you seen the American currency, $50? No, you're not familiar with American currency? Okay. $1 is George Washington. $5 Lincoln, $10 one of the two non-president we call Alexander Hamilton. Okay, $20 Jackson. Jefferson is $2, which you don't see a lot. I have one. I also have a $3 bill, which is not used, but it's a Bill Clinton, which is a fake money. Okay, but I have one. $50 is a guy called Ulysses Grant, 格兰将军. Okay, very bad president, always drunk. Okay, but you can be a military general, and Americans love war heroes. Okay, so they do have a lot. Where do I find these things? Oh, I want this one. I want Sub-Sahara. So slow. So, military general, not supposed. Oh, this is the Asia Pacific, but that's fine. Liu Huiyu, Li Qing'en. Yeah. What else in a democracy? Now, let me offer you something to see whether you agree with me. What about term limit? Do you understand term limit? Okay, now is it necessary to have it so you can have a democracy? If a country that do not have a term limit, does that mean this country is not a democratic country?
I think a term is necessary because if the term is like too long, there wouldn't be any excuse.
Okay, now I'll give you one example. Way back, okay, you probably heard of him, Tony Blair. Do you know Tony Blair? The British Prime Minister? Okay, 布莱尔. Okay, now, he served 3 terms. Is Great Britain not a democratic country? Because if he wants to, he can continue. Germany, we have we call Chancellor. Okay, very much like Prime Minister. One time, from 1982 to 1998, they have one Prime Minister called Helmut Kohl, who served 16 years. So if he continued to win election, he can be the chancellor. So those democratic countries, they don't have term limit, but we still call them democracy. Why?
I think they still have the basis of free competition, I guess.
What they do, they have competition. He can lose, but what he won. Or, later people say, hey, enough for you. Don't you think, someone else should take over, like Tony Blair of Great Britain? Finally, he stepped down. So his buddy, his friend, right now, Gordon Brown, 布朗首相, taking over. But he's going to lose the election in a month or so, right? In May, Great Britain is going to have an election. But this is what I'm saying. In some countries, we call parliamentary system. Parliamentary system, 内阁制. They don't have term limit because it is how you win the party win the election. If the majority of the seats go to one party, the party leader became prime minister. So if the leader continued to be the same, only one parliamentary system, the party leader had term limit. That's Japan. So Japan, usually you don't see someone serve more than 5 years. Okay, Koizumi is the one that probably served more than Xiaoquan. Okay, 5 years. Every 20 years, Japan will have one prime minister serve 5 years, and the rest of them serve 1 year. Okay, So Japan, like every 20 years, they have one good prime minister. Otherwise, what happened here? This is a shame to Tsinghua University. You know, you are a university of science and technology, and here we have this. What happened? Oh! So you have to shame. Okay. Now, let's see Taiwan. Where do we fit? They don't want to show us, huh? So slow. Okay, we have election, but also I think in the very beginning we have the idea, Mr. Zhou told us, regular election, which means we have to have more than just one election. You know, you don't elect people for life. You have what we call interval. Okay, someone tell me how this one works? Oh, this one does not work, just a map. It's just a map. Will that help? I'm not sure. They don't tell you anything, huh? So we call interval election. INTERVAL. Okay. That's interval. Means every periodic election. You have to have periodic election. You cannot just suddenly change the rule of game. Okay? So nowadays, I don't want to wait for this one. This one's so slow. NTHU. Are you embarrassed? I am embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. Oh. Is it because this one just being used in NCCU? And the NTHU said, well, you know, you're not very loyal. A removable disk cannot serve two masters. 是这样子讲吗？所以一个可携带硬碟不可侍奉两个这个主机。What happened? My assistant come to help. Okay, while we are waiting for that Freedom House stuff, so we're going to deal with this democracy, and the chapter started with we call 3 waves of democratization in the world, and we just finished almost the 3rd wave, okay, which was in the past maybe 25-30 years. Now, the first wave, when was the first wave of democracy? I think we mentioned that before. Xu Zhenqi, do you remember the first wave of democracy? Okay, which country is the first country, democratic country? United States. And after United States, some other country try as well, like French Revolution, okay, and then Latin America became independent, and they want, and so there were some democratic fervor in the early part of 19th century, late 18th century and 19th century, early part of 19th century. That's what we call the first wave of democracy. And then we have the second wave of democracy, which is about after World War I. Okay, after World War I, a lot of countries became democratic in Europe as well as in the Middle East as well. Okay, so that's the second wave of democracy. The third wave started. Okay, the third wave started in the 1970s. So now, Southern Europe. 黄伟伦有在吗？杨立德 Yeah. Southern Europe, European countries we used to think they are all democratic. No, in the 1970s, some of them are run by military generals. Which countries? Southern Europe. Okay, which countries are in Southern Europe? Spain. Okay, Spain had a Franco. Franco is a dictator. Who else in Southern Europe? Italy. But Italy has been a democracy. So what other countries in Southern Europe? We have Spain, we have Italy, Portugal. Okay, so basically people will talk about Spain and Portugal. Military rulers ended in 1974, 75. So became a transition to democracy. Also Greece, Greece is southeast, but also Southern Europe. So we have those three countries started their democratization. Now, Spain, once Spain began to democratize, which area will be most influenced by this? 吴伯庆有在吗？许志杰 Yeah, Ms. Xu. Okay, if Spain became democratic, what of the 5 area we study the third world region that will say, oh, Spain is democratizing, maybe we should do something to emulate Spain? Yeah, Latin America, okay? Of course, Latin America. And interestingly, there is another country in East Asia also began to have democratization. Which country? That also being influenced by Spain. Taiwan, because we have Spaniard came to Taiwan way back in the 17th century. 是这样的吗? Well, remember, the Dutch came and they drove the Spaniard out in the north. 我们台湾就这样子就受西班牙文化影响这么大，400年以后 say, oh, Spain became democratized, we need to follow. Which country? Which country has more similarity to Spain in our region? Ms. Xu, this is not difficult. South of Taiwan, which country? Yeah, the Philippines, okay? So in the 1980s, the third wave started from Southern Europe and then goes through Latin America and then East Asia. Philippines, Korea, Taiwan all became democratic. And then also Eastern Europe, right? Eastern Europe, this is where people said that wave is almost like the Song dynasty. Poet, essayist, politician called Su Dongbo. You heard of Su Dongbo, right? Su Dongbo 是什么？苏洵、苏轼、苏辙，哪一位？ One of the Su, right? He's one of the 3 Sus. Which one? 苏洵，舒适，舒适 ，comfortable. Okay. So 苏东坡 means 苏联东欧 wave. Okay, that's how people call it. So that third wave of democracy arriving Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, and they became democratic. And then also in sub-Saharan Africa in the 1990s. Okay, so basically starting from 1970, middle of 1970s until 1990. And then people said, it's almost like the wave, coming from, you see the wave coming from, way out there, and then approaching the shore. Eventually what happened? It just died down, right? We call running out of steam. 这中文应该怎么翻译 ？Running out of steam， 没气了，跑不动了。Okay, the wave just stopped, right? So right now, do we see more countries becoming democratic? It's almost like nothing new happened, right? I think the next big one, if something happened, will be China. Because 80%, almost 75% of the world population right now, live in a democratic system. If China became, we will have more than 95% of the world population living in a democracy. So we don't have democracy or waves of democracy. It's just we call running out of steam. And then we also see some difference we call democratic reversal as well. So you have the third wave of democracy, and interestingly, look at which region is not being touched. Wu Bosen. Yeah, which region we discussed is not here? Where? We have 5 regions, right, to study. Which region is not on the map? Not the map test. Map test, we have 8 regions, right? But in the book, every chapter, we have 5 areas. Which area is not covered? Well, Sub-Sahara, isn't that number 5 there? Can you see? You need a new glasses? Okay. It's there, right? Okay, so which one is not there? Middle East. Okay, it's the Middle East. Okay, of course, South Asia is not there. But then we have South Asia, the big country is which one? India. India has been a democracy all the time. So it's the Middle East. It's the only region that is not covered here. Okay, just remember this. The third wave somehow stopped. Like coming. Oh, like you put a little things on the beach. Have you do this? Like the wave is coming. Ooh, right, stop there. Okay, so the right stop by the doorsteps of the Middle East, and Middle East is not affected. Okay, let's take a break. So we're coming back. Finally, we show this is one country on the Freedom House. They will say political rights score and civil liberties score. 2 plus 3, that's 5. That's still status is free. Okay, so this is the country generally supposed to be free. Okay, so I'll give you what they do is they have ranking political rights and civil liberties from 1 to 7. Okay, 7 is the worst one. 1 is the best. So if 1 plus 1 equals 2, then you are very good. Okay, 1 and 1, that's the most democratic country. 7 and 7, that's the worst one. Here I have some African countries. I'll show you. Like Cape Verde is 1 and 1, very free. And Ghana is 1 and 2. Okay, like Taiwan, like South Korea, we are 1 and 2, so we are free. Okay, South Africa is 2 and 2, and then you have 2 and 3. Mali is free, but once you go, the number is 3 and 3, you become partially free. Means not that free, but it's also partially free. Okay, so from 3 and 4, that's 7 to 8, and then until 5 and 5, that's 10 together, that's partially free. Once you're over 5, like 6 and 5, 6 and 6, 6 and 7, 7 and 7, not free. So 3 category, right? Free, partially free, not free. Okay, I still remember when I was a graduate student looking at this, looking at Taiwan at the time, 5 and 5, or 4, okay, 4 and 5, partially free. Most of the time, I think we begin to have partially free, but only until 1990, we became free, okay? So this is the Freedom House Index. So today, for example, if you want to find any country, like let's say Taiwan here, Taiwan. So what would be our guess? I think it's 1 and 2. Two and 1. Okay, that's Taiwan. Okay, political rights score is 2. 1 is civil liberty. So political rights is like election. You allow multi-party to compete. You are competing for most meaningful offices. All those are we call political rights. Okay, political party being organized. Those civil liberties. Civil liberty means freedom of speech. I think we have enough freedom of speech in Taiwan. Okay, freedom of press. We have enough. We call fruit daily, right? And number weekly. 听懂吗？水果周刊、水果日报、数字周刊。Okay? So we have enough of that. So we are 2 and 1. So we are 3. And how about our neighbor, South Korea? South Korea, I think, is 1 and 2. Okay, so we're brothers. 2 and 1, 1 and 2. Okay, the score is the same. How about Japan? Japan may be 1 and 1, right? Oh, Japan also 1 and 2. Okay, so let's look at China. What do you think of China? Seven and 6, okay? Not, hey, but do you know this country? Very free. Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, I think it's 2 and 2. Not bad, huh? Okay. Also, I'll show you some other places, so it might be interest. How about the places our president was visiting? Do you want one country? He just came back from, let's say, Kiribati. I love Kiribati. Kiribati. Whew! Embarrassing. A little island country more democratic than Taiwan. So next time, don't look down on smaller island. Huh? We are 2 and 1, they are 1 and 1. Okay? Where else do we have? Oh, how about this one? I cannot even. Do you remember this one? Palau. 中文叫什么？帛琉。Okay. So this is how they tell you whether it is democratic. Political means competing election, rule of law, and then civil liberty. Ooh. 1 and 1. Okay? Very democratic. Very free. Okay? So next time, look at this number and, be embarrassed. Okay? So, go back to here. Where is mine? So we have those 3 waves. Middle East is the only region. Okay? This is the definition given by the author, saying regular. Okay, remember regular. You have to have a regular election. You cannot, like countries, keep putting off election, like Côte d'Ivoire in Africa. Where is my favorite? Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast here. Okay, they said they're going to have a presidential election since 2003. Wow, 7 years later, they said we are going to have an election. Okay, but we don't have regular election in those countries. Or countries like Angola, they said, well, we're supposed to have a presidential election, but it's just not the right time. We can have a parliamentary election. They did, okay, but they didn't have the scheduled presidential election. So regular and competitive election. What about China or Soviet Union before? The election is like Iraq. I love the Iraqi election before, like Saddam Hussein. Okay, he will win like 99% of the vote. I would be embarrassed winning 99% of the vote. Or will you be embarrassed saying there's still one people who does not like me? Oh, that's embarrassing. I thought everybody loves me. No, you can't, right? 99%, that's not correct, okay? So competitive election means at least people have a chance to win, okay? Free participation of individual leaders and groups in the electoral and political process. Free participation means no one has been, we call, disenfranchised for political reasons. Oh, this means you cannot participate in the election. They use some technicality. Now, something is in the news. Let me check, see whether you read newspaper or not. 邱雅轩、谢梦涵都不在，这么久。哦 ，Okay. Now, which country? The opposition said we're going to boycott the election. They're not going to run for election. This spiritual leader of this opposition, a female, a lady, she is under house arrest. 哇，她被房子逮捕了。Do you understand what is house arrest? 缅甸 okay, Burma or Myanmar? Okay, Myanmar. Myanmar. Burma or Myanmar. So opposition being almost deprived of, in the electoral process, okay, or political process. So you cannot compete. Okay, some countries they will not allow the opposition to we call have fair opportunity to conduct political campaign. So those are very also important. The third one. Democratic leaders and institutions being autonomous, especially autonomous from, where is my word? From the military, from people who wear uniform. Okay, they don't control the political process. Or some countries, let me ask you this: Democratic leaders, is Democratic leader in Russia right now the president? Medvedev, is he autonomous or is he being dominated by Putin? 不是布丁啊，普廷。Some people said no, he is just what we call a figurehead. What is a figurehead? Or puppet? What is a puppet? 傀儡. Okay. Now, I have to say something because when I was dating my wife as a college student, a senior, I think it's a senior. Was that? No, junior. Okay. I was dating my wife. My wife asked me like, "Oh, Mister, what's your last name?" I said, "I have the same last name as the president." So my wife said, "Oh, Mr. Jiang, how are you?" I said, "No. Who is the president now?" "Oh, Yan Jiagan. Never heard of him." Right? Have you heard of Yan Jiagan? Yan Jiagan was the president in between the two Jiang. Right? But most people think he was just a puppet. Okay? So that's why we say you have to be autonomous. Okay? You're not dominated by one group of people or by military. Okay? Sometimes the military say, "Hey, it's not good for us to be on the front. So why don't we put someone else on the front? We are just pulling the strings." When you play the puppet show, do you do the strings, right? So that's why we call autonomous. That's the author's definition of a democracy. And then he introduced, 4 types of non-democratic regimes. So I want you to give me example of them. Dong Yan Hao. Am I calling the right? Hou Fan Du. Can you give me one example of communist government? Cuba. Okay. Hey, remember, communist government, today we call them endangered species. So need to be protected. Not a lot of them now, right? So Cuba is one. Wang Yuhong. Yeah. Can you give me another one? China. Is China really communist? Or socialist with Chinese characteristics? 具有中国特色的社会主义。Yes, China is one, right? Communist government today, we have officially China, Cuba. We need 2 more. Liao Yuqing. Yeah. The one maybe having some minds that last weekend something happened. A naval ship exploded in the water of their country. North Korea, right? North Korea, even though they call it Workers' Party, I think it's communist. Okay, so we have North Korea, we have China, we have Cuba. Okay, we need 2 more. Let's try. Su Houming. Yeah. Vietnam. Okay, so we have also. Oh, excuse. What's this? This is So we have Vietnam as well. And the last one people say is Laos. Lao Wo. Where is Lao Wo? Lao Wo, people say, oh, that's in the Philippines. No, there is a Lao Wo in Philippines. That's a city, right? But Lao Wo is which country? Liao Guo. Okay, so those 5, only 5 in the world now. So please remember them. Okay, you'll be tested in the final. Only 5 communist countries. Only 5. But we have a lot of non-communist one-party states. Okay. Wang Wei-fu. Yeah, can you give me one today? Can you think of any one-party state? Singapore? ooh. Non-democratic? I'm not sure Singaporean will accept that. Singapore will say this is the Asian style democracy. Different, But yeah, Singapore might be one. Or in the history, okay? We have a lot of non-communist one-party state. Example would be a lot like, I'll give you this one, Senegal for one time. In the 1980s, the African country said, multi-party. Every party became a ethnic party. Do you understand ethnic party? Means the party only get their support from one ethnic group. So very divisive, creating ethnic tension. So they said maybe one party would be better. So they said one party, no ethnic conflict. A lot of African countries having non-communist but one-party state. They think one party is a unifying thing. Oh, I love this one. South Korea, way back in the 1970s. Way back in the 1970s, the government decided to become authoritarian and one-party state. Okay, become more authoritarian. The president at the time, Park Chung-hee, he said, we are talking with North Korea, and North Korea is an authoritarian system, only one voice. We have too many noises, so we cannot talk to North Korea. We don't have a unifying voice, voice against North Korea. So that's the reason we have to get rid of the old constitution and no longer have direct election of the president. So in Taiwan, should we do that? We are negotiating with China, and China only has one official policy. Taiwan, we just have too many different voices. Oh, why don't we get rid of? Why don't we just get a military general? So one voice. Those are good reasons for one party when you want to negotiate. Okay, but that's not a good one. Why? So today, for example, we are negotiating with China. China said, "Wow, we want to do this." We said, "No, we cannot. We're a democratic country. We have, other political party. They have different view. This one will not pass. So it's good to have opposition. So one-party states, a lot of them, another one-party state. For a long time, also, people said, is this democratic or not? A country south of the United States, they have a one-party called PRI, People's, I think it's called Revolution Institution. So in Mexico, Mexico from 1930 until 1990 is the same one party. But do they have other party? Yes. But most people think Mexico was one party state. Okay, so that's one party. And personalist. Okay, what is a personalist? Personalist is not just one party, but just that person, the family, or is involved. Huang Tenghui. Is that吗？许立成。邱伯凯。Yeah. Can you think of a personalist? Zaire. Okay, I love this name. Remember, Mobutu Sese Seko, but he didn't wear a Seiko watch. Mobutu Sese Seko. 你们不会喜欢这种名字吗？这么好听。Mobutu Sese Seko. This is different from your Seiko watch. Your Seiko watch is... Okay. He said, if I put myself in the middle of my name, I became a Seiko, right? If I in the middle of Seiko. Okay. So, Mobutu Sese Seko, some of you might, in the next 5 years or 10 years, will still receive an email from his daughter saying, before my father passed away, he put a lot of money in the Swiss bank. And would you please send me some money to help me, release that fund? And once we got that money released, I will give you some share. And so you stupid, you send some money there. And the money will never return. Right? So why? Because Mobutu Sese Seko did put a lot of money in Switzerland bank, in Swiss banks. Okay? So nowadays people know that, and people will claim to be his daughter, saying, we want the money to be released. Please help us so you can also share that money. Africa has a lot of dictators saving money that way. So Mobutu is one of the personalists. In a way, I think North Korea is becoming not just a communist, but also a personalist as well. Usually we have, in the personalist regime, we have something we call personality cult. C-U-L-T, personality cult. So what do we mean by personality cult? 郑一涵. Yeah, what is personality cult? Personality cult is almost like they create some kind of myth or aura about this leader. Okay? Like in traditional Chinese history, you will hear about like the emperor when he was born, or before, or when he was conceived. His mother dreamed of a snake or something, or a dragon. 有没有读过这种小说？怎么妈妈梦见青龙就怀孕了？Okay. What do you mean by personality cult? Almost like 偶像崇拜。Do you have a better translation for this? Personality cult? I think it's 不能叫偶像崇拜，领袖崇拜哈。Okay, so what do you do? For example, right now, we have one other country, which I'm sorry, it is Taiwan's diplomatic ally, called the Gambia here. Okay, the Gambian president, by the name of Jammeh, he said, if you go to visit him and you have sickness, he touched you, you got healed. I think that's what we call personality cult, right? What other country would do that? What other leaders in our history would do that? You just, you get healed when you visit, or the road, will open up. Something will happen. So personality cult. What did they do with Mao Zedong, right? Mao Zedong, wow. In China, during the Cultural Revolution, you have a Mao Zedong's picture here in your room, right? In your family, inside your house. So before you go to school every day, you will say, "Hey, Chairman Mao, I'm going to school. I'll be a good student today. Okay, bye." Right? When you come home, you say, "Chairman Mao, I'm home. I behaved, during the school. So I'm coming home." And so you have to do that. That's what we call personality cult. 个人崇拜，不叫领袖了，个人崇拜。Okay, I think that's what we call. So Chairman Mao did that. Chairman Mao's little red book provide everything you need to know. Okay, what do you want to know? Check Chairman Mao's little red book. 我们台湾也有过哎，叫什么？叫蒋公家言录。什么生命的意义？ 在创造宇宙机体的生命。OK， 生活的意义在干嘛？生活的目的在改善全体人类的生活。Hey, I still remember God. Oh, still here. Okay, so that's what we call personality cult. Do we have that anymore? I don't think so. Do we have any personality cult on 阿扁 or 小马? No. But this is we call personalist regime. Okay, you create that. And then of course you also have we call military regimes still available in Latin America. No, in Africa. Okay, Latin America no longer has a military regime. So this is the one. The book was wrong. Okay, because in the 1990s the book talked about military coup, but mostly right now it's in Africa, the military regime. Okay. So you still remember we have two perspectives in this class, right? One is developmentalist. What's the other one? The 蔡宜娟, Zhu Junwei. Yeah. What's the other one? We have two perspectives. One is developmental. What's the other one? The core of the core. Oh, I have to repeat that. You know, in an interview recently, I almost cannot do it. 核心中的核心与边陲中的核心，联手合作打压，边陲中的边陲跟核心中的边陲。Oh, okay. What's that? Do you remember that? The core of the core and the core of the periphery work together against the periphery of the core and the periphery of the periphery. What's that theory? This is developmental. What's the other one? You don't remember? This is the class. We're talking about this too. Every chapter we will have this too. Developmental and dependency. Okay, so those are the two. Okay, but their view of democracy is quite different. Developmentalists first looking at the factors, saying, hey, you know, why a country will become democratic? They said the first one is good political leadership. Okay, if you have good leader who is willing to democratize. Oh, secondly, this is one. Political culture conducive to democracy. Now, how many of you remember in your modern Chinese history that in order to have, we call constitutional rule in China, you have to go through two other periods? Chen Ziling, do you remember those two periods? First of all, do you know what I'm talking about? Like 3 stage. You know, you need to have a political culture. That people are learning how to be part of democracy. It's not in the text. It's in your something there. You know? Okay, in modern Chinese history, like during the warlord period, you're fighting, so you want to establish democracy, but hey, you have a military rule first. What's that in Chinese? Do you remember? 军政。然后呢？最后呢 ？Constitutional rule. Constitution. 军政。训政. What is 训政? Education, almost. Teaching people to become, like teaching people, this is how you vote. You drop the vote into that ballot box, right? You put your name on that ballot. You put, but don't put it outside the box. And then finally you have, we call 宪政, constitutional. So you have to have a political culture that people actually think we need to have a we call consensus, or we need to decide everything by ourselves. Instead of dodging the responsibility. Do you remember that this dodge, the word? Guo Hongzi belonged to that team called 道奇. What does that 道奇 mean? The Dodgers, 道奇队. Oh, what does dodge mean? Okay, I'll give you another hint called the dodge ball. 躲避球有玩过吗？有哦，有被 case 啊。Okay, so the Dodgers. So you don't dodge responsible. Hey, a lot of people say, "Oh, we don't know. I don't think we can do it." Then you don't have a political culture for democracy. People are willing to take responsibility. People are willing to vote on something. People are willing to have that kind of mechanism. So that's what we call political culture. You know, political culture. Some people say authoritarian system is nice. When you have a dictator, you don't have to think. Don't you think it's such a burden for us? Like every year we have to vote. Oh gosh, which one to choose? You know, people say, oh, you know, why don't you read their platform, their views? 读一下他们的政见. Are you really interested in reading that? Or are they just putting something from Professor Yan's notes and saying, oh, this is what I want to do? And do you want to believe that? Or it's the easiest one is, who gave me money, I'll vote for him, right? So that's what we call political culture. So you have to have a political culture that people request democracy. Like right now, if you're in China, you say, how come I cannot access Google? Okay, how come I can only vote for the Communist Party member in the local election? What happened to the other people? So that's what we call political culture. People begin to raise questions. And then long-term increase of wealth means if you're too poor, sorry, you cannot have democracy. You know, only rich people have the leisure to have democracy. No, but just happen to be, what do we call, correlated. You look at two variables, wealth and democracy, you say, oh, they are actually closely related. Do we have any country that is wealthy but not democratic? Or do we have any poor country that has become democratic even though they are poor? Okay, question. Hang Xiaolan, can you give me one country that is poor but democratic? The one we just mentioned earlier in South Asia. Well, Philippines is not in South Asia. Philippines we call Southeast Asia. The big giant country in South Asia. The population will probably catch up with China. Which country? It's going to be the #1 country in terms of population. Right now has 1.1 billion people. You don't know. Zhang Qingrui. 艾尔强. Which one?
India.
Okay, so India is poor but always democratic. Okay, so wealth, yeah, it's important, but can we find, can we find a country that is rich but not democratic?
Is it China?
China is not that rich. Yeah, China is partially rich. I love that word, partially. You know, people say, are you in love? No, I'm partially in love.
But they are becoming richer.
Yeah, but people said, like the cutoff point may be per capita income. Some people say 7,000, 6,000, 7,000 US dollar. Okay, obviously China is not yet there. China, I think, is 2,000 or 3,000 now. But coastal area, of course, Shanghai, Beijing, but not in the interior. So which country, per capita income is high, but it's not democratic? North Korea? No. North Korea is poor. Oh, North Korea is poor. Hey, people are starving there. But the leader is still watching a Hollywood movie, though. Some of the oil-rich countries, like Kuwait, okay, or like countries like today, people would say Singapore, really, higher per capita income than Taiwan is not. Saudi Arabia, not democratic at all, please. Okay, so a lot of these countries are not. And even, if we go back to look at Latin America, a country has always been democratic but not rich. Costa Rica has always been democratic but not rich. So it is a good indicator but not always necessary. But this guy, this is a sociologist, Martin Lipset. He's the one who said wealth is important. For example, Taiwan, people say, why Taiwan becomes a democracy? Oh, because we have a very big size of what? Of 中广中产阶级啦，就是okay. So middle class, we have a middle class that is bigger and bigger. So wealth is important. He says only a rich economy you can have high level of literacy, education, and exposure to mass media. But literacy and education, only rich country? No. How about Cuba? Cuba is not rich. They have very high literacy, very good education. Of course, they don't have a lot of mass media. But these are also important for you to have democracy. The second one is only an affluent economy can mitigate, means reduce what? Political tension. Saying in Africa, if you are running for election, you win the election, you have everything. If you lost the election, the end of your life. No, I mean, the end of not your life, but the end of your aspiration. Okay? Means you get nothing. So in Taiwan, for example, what do you do if you lost an election? Think of 2004. Who lost the election? 连爷爷，爷爷你好，您回来了。So 连爷爷 I think is doing fine, right? He is not politically being persecuted. Economically, he is still doing well. So in Taiwan, you can, if you lost the election, you can find something else to do. Okay. I hate the one the most is people say, oh, I want to go back to teach in college. No, don't come back. Okay. But that's so there are unsuccessful political leader can find something. The bad thing in most of the country nowadays is we call some kind of the Club of Madrid. If you have already been president, we call 马德里俱乐部. What is that? Club of Madrid. All the ex-leader, like Clinton, like Bush, they can belong to this club. In Taiwan, who should belong to there? But he cannot go. Okay, Li Denghui a little bit too old, to join this club. So I recommend Annette Lu Xiunian instead. Okay, should go there. But at least, look at Li Xiunian, right? I think she cannot win election. She couldn't win election last time when she ran for the presidential nomination within the DPP. Well, she is publishing a newspaper, right? So you always have we call alternative opportunity. You can do other things. That's important. Only in a rich country. In poor country, everybody want to control the political office because political office decide how to distribute resources. You know, if you don't win office, you have nothing. But in Taiwan, if you don't win offices, you still have other means of life because Taiwan is a affluent economy. Okay. The third one, he said, rich economy is because rich economy is so complex, right? And only a democracy can deal with all this rules and laws that people are going to be affected by the rule, and they want to be part of the decision-making process. In authoritarian government, you cannot do that. What about China? China is not a wealthy economy, right? But it is a complex economy now. But China is pretty efficient. Wow. And rules and people being affected. Last week, we talked about Ding Zihu. China said, I don't care. Cai, right? Just write one Chinese word, Cai, that house is gone. Right? So people being affected, do they care? No. I'm not sure this is still true. And in fact, democracy might have problem right now because so many different voices. The fourth one, a state with a wealthy economy tend to few poor people because income is distributed more equally than unprosperous country. Now, we have problem here. Is this really the case? We have income distribution much better. 罗志远，刘玉兰 ，yeah. Now, is it rich country? The gap between the rich and the poor narrower than the poor country. Not necessary, right? We don't know. So, like in certain rich country, the rich got so rich, they don't. We use the word we call distributive justice. There is no justice in income distribution. But in poor country, we also have just like Congo, right? Mobutu Sese Seko, right? He's well, wow. And the poor people in Congo, you know. So you have fewer poor people in the United States. Not necessarily true. Brazil also have a really big gap between the rich and the poor. And do we have poor country that everybody is equally poor? Yes, we have few. We have one country called Tanzania. I love that country. Tanzania, the president said, when we retire, we can actually retire because we don't have any money in Swiss banks. So we can retire and do not worry about our being arrested. Okay? Other countries, they don't want to step down. Why? Because once they step down, they go directly to the jail. So, poor country, I'm not sure this is true anymore. But anyway, this is what the developmental perspective, especially from Lipset, saying money is everything. Once you become rich, people wanted to have democracy because they are educated, they are informed, they want to be part of the decision-making process. And that's why you need to have this. Okay, dependency theory offer a different view. So we will continue this next week. Do you want to have your second map test next time? You ready? Okay, I'll give you one next time. Okay, I'll also in between notify those few, very few who pass. Okay. I think might be an endangered species. Who knows? But very few pass. Okay, very few pass. But I have to check with my assistant to find out. Okay, see you next week.